Welcome to the Tyler Werner Show, discussing all the latest in Philadelphia sports.
I think it's safe to say that Howie Roseman's moves in the Eagles' free agency period this past week has garnered universal acclaim, as he has taken one of the worst outside receiving cores in the league and added a considerably better 1-2 punch in Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, at least for this season. Meanwhile, they seem to have shored up their offensive line and essentially replaced backup quarterback Chase Daniel with former Eagle Nick Foles.
How's everyone doing?
So that basically leaves the running back position left to improve, and certainly a defense with holes at cornerback and a few other positions now, which leads us to the draft coming up later in the spring, given they don't really have any cap space to bring anybody notable in. Overall, it's hard not to feel better about the direction of this team with Howie's recent moves.
I mean, they're sexy, right? You know?
Trust the process. How's everyone doing? Let's make some noise, come on!
And yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tyler Werner Show. Coming off of a very busy free agency week with the Philadelphia Eagles. After free agency, we talked about it last week on the Tyler Werner Show, as we had we knew we had quite a busy week ahead because the Eagles needed receiving help. And there was obviously the big talk about the deal for Brandon Cooks, which ultimately that didn't happen. Where the Eagles, they probably would have had to give away their first round draft pick, and do they give away a player to maybe get Brandon Cooks in here from the New Orleans Saints? And it didn't happen, but that's fine. Because I think what the Eagles did at wide receiver position, it's hard to argue against what they did. No matter which way you slice it, it's going to be year 2 for Carson Wentz. You had to do better. Maybe, this might affect the draft ultimately in what they do. Maybe we were all thinking they might address the receiving position and maybe get Mike Williams or whoever else is available, the best wide receiver available to them at pick number 14 in the draft. And maybe now that might not happen. Maybe they address a different position of need in the draft with that first pick, a la running back Dalvin Cook, or best cornerback available. We got plenty of time to debate that, and we certainly will as we proceed through here with the Tyler Werner Show. Still in the midst of free agency, but kind of beyond all the initial exciting moves that were made by the Philadelphia Eagles and this team and that team. So they bring Torrey Smith in here on basically a 3-year, $5 million per year deal. All right, that was the first major move. That was the first thing in stone that they were. First of all, Kenny Britt it looked like he was going to come here, and ultimately on Thursday morning, it looked like he was going to the Cleveland Browns. And sure enough, he went to the Cleveland Browns. And I know a lot of people were happy about it, and that's fine. I'm happy with how the Eagles' receiving core is shaping up now anyways. So Kenny Britt to the Browns. Torrey Smith gets brought in here. I know initially there was some feedback, some not so happy Eagle fans about this, because they're thinking, they think he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver. This is who they got. They're not getting Brandon Cooks or, anybody else that's better than Torrey Smith. Band-Aid approach. Well, hold on. Because then the Eagles land Alshon Jeffrey, who supposedly took less money, less of a deal. He wanted to come here and play with Carson Wentz. And we have some audio, which we'll play later on the Tyler Werner Show. Alshon Jeffrey's introductory press conference here with the Philadelphia Eagles. And kind of, giving the gist of why he chose Philadelphia, what he wants to do here, and yada yada. And that's win a championship, he said. And he basically said Carson Wentz is one of the main reasons. So, that's good to hear. That he wants to play with a franchise quarterback here who has potential to be one of the best in the league in the forthcoming future. And hopefully win a championship or championships. So right there, a 1-year deal, $14 million. All right. They've used for the most part, free agency to address the wide receiving position. Now, maybe this means they don't draft Mike Williams. Maybe this means they don't draft an elite, a receiver in the draft with elite potential. Maybe one of the later rounds they do, which, doesn't do them a whole lot of good maybe, but in the long run. But it gives Alshon Jeffrey, who he missed several games last year due to a suspension. And before that, he's missed games to injury the season before that, and yada yada. But this is his chance this year to, it's a prove us deal. Prove it to us. It's good for and Jeffrey has a great season, a Pro Bowl season. Then maybe next year he tests the market. But he just turned 27. So he has a few good years in him. 3-4 good seasons he should have. Maybe 5, I don't know. And the thing is, too, he's a big physical receiver. He knows how to... He's not very fast, whereas Torrey Smith is more of a speed guy. That can maybe take the top off of a defense, if I could use that cliche. So, whereas Jeffrey, he's got great hands. He can out-muscle defend. He knows how to play the ball in the red zone and yada yada. He didn't have many touchdowns last year. Then again, you got to feel better that Carson Wentz is throwing him. You got to feel better that the Eagles have seemed to retool their offensive line as well and shored that up. You got to feel better again that Torrey Smith, some speed guy, and you got Jordan Matthews in the slot now. The addition of these two guys in the receiving core instead of Nelson Aguilar and Dorial Green Beckham being your 1 and 2 outside receivers is a significant improvement. All right. Now I'm not saying it's it's as good as Odell Beckham and Brandon Marshall, or maybe Dez Bryant and Terrence Williams, or whoever they I'm not saying it's as good as what those other teams in the NFC East have at receiver. Cole Beasley, if you want to throw him in the mix too. But it's certainly a great step up from what they had. So, this should, theoretically make Zach Ertz better and Jordan Matthews in the slot better. This should theoretically, again, make everybody, like when Deshaun Jackson was in here, a speed guy. He helped make Riley Cooper better. So I look at this and I think it's, again, good deal. Torrey Smith, he's only making $5 million. Wasn't very productive in the dumpster fire that was San Francisco, but he was solid in Baltimore, and I think he can be solid here, a solid number 2. And when they brought him in before anything was really mentioned about Alshon Jeffrey coming here, I was saying, at best he's a number 2 here, Torrey Smith. They got to do better. And I was thinking, well, if this is what they get, they draft Mike Williams, their best wide receiver of choice there, with that first pick. Now, they don't have to. Because they got Alshon Jeffrey here this season. And again, if Jeffrey decides he wants to walk after this season, then maybe you got to draft a good wide receiver high next year in your first pick. Maybe that's what then maybe that's what you got to do. But if Jeffrey has a good season, Carson Wentz, he stays healthy, doesn't get another suspension, then you can re-sign him to a longer-term deal, an extension. And he can be part of the core here that maybe, that you hope goes on to win a championship or 2. Well, let's just say the one for now. Just that one championship.
I agree.
And then maybe we'll talk about the other ones. But you know what I mean. You build a dynasty if you can. So Jeffrey, Jeffrey has a good season. Why wouldn't he want to stay here for more money? He could have probably made more in Chicago. I mean, he got franchise tagged last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's one of those things. He came here, he wanted to play with Carson Wentz. 1-year deal, that's fine. It's a, show us what you're made of deal. Show us you can stay healthy too, not miss too much time, and produce here with Carson Wentz and this up-and-coming Eagles offense. And they can bring him back next year, and maybe for a few more years. If it's, a mutually solid relationship, I guess, if you want to call it that. And then they're set at receiver. They got Torrey Smith, a couple years. And then they kind of just got to get a running back on offense. Which, again, that leads us to draft discussion. But overall, I am happy with what they did at the wide receiving position. I mean, these are both guys that have a significantly higher yards per catch than what Dorial Green-Beckham here and Nelson Aguilar had last year. What this Eagles offense, I mean, again, Carson Wentz, it's like he couldn't really go downfield with what they had here. That was the sad reality of it all. Now, you have guys coming in here who have, 15 yards per reception, on average in the career, somewhere around that number. It's like you had half that with Nelson Aguilar and Dorial Green-Beckham last year. So you know what? Those guys, for the most part, it's time for them to sit on the bench and watch how the pros do it. Watch how real pros do it.
Sit down! Sit down!
Thank you, Mike Golick. That's not to it's not to say that Torrey Smith is all world here, and that Alshon Jeffrey is necessarily Julio Jones. I'm not saying he's that, but together they're pretty solid, and they're a step forward from what this Eagles outside receiving core was last year. And you know what? Maybe you see what those. Maybe when Aguilar and Green-Beckham do get a chance, that is, if they both are still here and not cut, you get to see what these guys do, and maybe, hopefully, that can motivate them a little more to do better, so that when they are in there, since now they're really not going to be full-time players, maybe you can see how to step up your game. Oh, and get this. Alshon Jeffrey's number in Chicago was number 17. And that was Nelson Aguilar's number this past season. So, my thought was that when Alshon Jeffrey comes here, what's Nelson Aguilar going to have to do with the number 17? He's going to have to drop it. Thank you. Yeah, he's gonna have to try. No, apparently Alshon Jeffrey, he said that Nelson Aguilar can keep 17. I'm sorry, I had to. But anyhow, hopefully you got. Maybe it took a second to get that one, but anyhow. And let's. I mean, there's Bryce Treggs here on the roster too. I don't know, Paul Turner. I mean. There's a real. I mean, I got to think that Aguilar stays, since he was a former first-round draft pick. But maybe he's a 4 or 5. Green-Beckham, I don't know. He might be. I don't know. He might be on his way out. We'll have to remain.
Hit him up! Move him out!
We'll have to wait and see, I guess, on that. But again, I feel better. And you know what? Even if Alshon Jeffrey goes somewhere else next season, and the Eagles got to draft a new wide receiver, that'll be fine by me. Next year they can get but a ready-made receiving core in Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith out here, that's good for Carson Wentz year 2 as well. Even if these aren't the long-term answers at receiver, you can maybe find that next year. You can find if you have to. But for year 2, this is good. There's no way in year 2 that you come back with Nelson Aguilar and Dorial Green-Beckham again on the outside. There's no way that you could do that in your right mind. And credit to Howie Roseman for what he did here and making Alshon, supplying Carson Wentz with a solid receiving core in year 2.
I like vanilla and chocolate.
Yeah, if you will. Yeah, maybe. Again, this is like vanilla and chocolate here. You got a speed guy, Torrey Smith. Not a Pro Bowl receiver. But still, a guy who can kind of tear the top off of defense. And then, if you want to, Alshon Jeffrey, you want to call him chocolate, whatever. Howie Roseman wants to call this vanilla and chocolate. You got a good possession receiver who can, again, He can track down a deep ball well. He can, out physical guys in the secondary and in the red zone and in the end zone, and come down with some key receptions for 15 yards or more on an average. It's better than what. It's significantly better than Nelson Aguilar and Green Beckham. Last week I was all for bringing Brandon. If they could just straight up, if they could have just straight up traded their 14th pick. If you throw in a player in there, I don't know about that. But look at it this way. They're paying the same for Alshon Jeffrey for 1 year, and they didn't have to give anything up. Any draft picks. They have their fort. So it's probably better this way than if they just brought Brandon Cooks in there and they had to give away their 14th draft pick and they're still playing. I'm sorry. I almost said praying. I almost said playing. The word is paying Brandon Cooks, not praying.
Oh God, ease our suffering in this our moment of great despair.
On that note, let's take a first break. Catch up here. Yeah, maybe before I stutter again. Right here in the Tyler Werner Show, we'll be back. We've got more to discuss, including the return of Nick Foles.
What the hell?
Yeah, maybe some people reacted that way. Well, we'll talk about it in the Tyler Werner Show. We got plenty of transactions and cuts and releases and signings to discuss right here on the Tyler Werner Show. Stay tuned for more.
Investigators are calling it the heist of the century. The grand robbery of Brady and Belichick's slow-cooked Italian meatballs, committed by some apparently hungry NFL officials who love their balls.
When I came in Monday morning, I was shocked to learn of the news reports about the balls and the process that happened between when they were prepared and went to the officials and went to the game.
As shocked as Belichick was of the news, perhaps Brady, the last man out of the kitchen on that Sunday night, was even more shocked to hear of the news of the theft.
I have a process that I go through. It's the same process that I always go through. When I felt them, they were perfect. I wouldn't want anyone touching those. I would zip those things up and lock them away, and that's what I thought I was doing.
As Brady and Belichick up the ante on their ball security, you'll just have to pick up a pack of their meatballs the next time you hit the grocery store and enjoy just how perfect these balls really are.
Tom's personal preferences on his ball security are something that he can talk about in much better detail than I could possibly provide.
It's no big news flash that many people, you included, eat as a way to medicate themselves. You can choose to worry about it or not. You can choose to panic about your situation or not. It's clear what you must do in order to make important changes.
5 letters here. RELAX. Relax. We're going to be okay.
In order for you ever to effectively figure out and map how to get to where you want to go, you have to first know exactly where you are starting.
RELAX. Relax.
You have to be willing to change what you're doing. You can change your behavior.
And we're back on the Tyler Werner Show. A mid-March edition here is... We're... for those who live up here in the Delaware Valley of Philadelphia Sports Talk, we had a storm. Blizzard of sorts. Or nor'easter snowstorm here mid-March, just when we thought winter was over. Here we are again. I remember last week around this time, I think it was 60 and sunny, if I'm not mistaken. And, here we go with the snow and the cold weather. I woke up this morning, I think it was, below 20 degrees still. So, again, I know most of, the average human being here is just like, what is going on here? What, like, wintertime, can't you just go away? And
You know what? Enough! Enough!
Just when you thought with springtime in the February when we had like a couple days that were like 70 degrees, here we go with this snowstorm. But I don't think it was as bad as they were projecting it to be. I will say that. But here we go, a little dose of winter in what is kind of supposed to be that transition into springtime that it seemed like we had in February already. But it looks like winter wasn't. Looks like winter was kind of hitting us a little late with some snow. So hopefully everybody hopefully everybody's getting around okay. Hopefully everybody stayed safe during this touch of winter as we move forward here through free agency. Another very eventful free agency is the Eagles. They were making some moves. Certainly, they had limited cap space, and they had to certainly let some guys go, or let them sign elsewhere. Try to trade guys if they could, and so just to kind of go through here. Okay, obviously at the top of the list is the signing of Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith to shore up their wide receiving position. Pretty tremendously over where they were. The Eagles re-signed offensive lineman Steven Wisniewski. He was, again, he kind of filled in last year pretty well. Again, Lane Johnson was out the majority of last year due to suspension. Hopefully he can stay, he can stay clean. And so Steven Wisniewski, he can play guard or center. He's back on a 3-year deal. Could it be the end of Jason Kelce at center? Remains to be seen. As Kelce was a little spotty last year. And you wonder if he's going to be back.
Don't know.
Either way, Wisniewski is here. And of course, Jason Peters was originally, they were trying to see if, he's going to be 35 next season. Would he be able to, would he take a pay cut? And he wasn't willing to, but nevertheless, Jason Peters is going to be back for another season next year on this offensive line. Howie Roseman, even with the signing of Wisniewski, according to Roseman, we want to keep all of those guys on the offensive line, so remains to be seen. Again, let's see here. There's been buzz about the Eagles linebacker Michael Kendricks being on the move, and perhaps that proves out. But for now, he's staying. $4.35 million of Kendrick's salary becomes guaranteed. This was last week. If I'm not mistaken, I mentioned last week that if they wait until June to release him or whatever, trade him, they'll actually save more money. They'll actually save $5 million in cap space. So I don't know. They might just hang on to him until then. Let's see here. Okay, here's more details on Alshon Jeffrey's $14 million one-year deal. Only $8.75 million is guaranteed. The rest is a $750K workout bonus and incentives tied to catches, yards, touchdowns, playing time, and postseason honors such as Pro Bowl. So, there's part of it that I guess isn't factored in. Another incentive, an incentives deal, which is good. If he produces for you, then he makes more money. You get the production out of him. So again, it's hard to be against that. Now Tim McManus reports it's $9.5 million, $7.75 million signing bonus, with $4.5 million worth of incentives for the whole, receiving yards, touchdowns, etc. Again, slight variations here from different reports. Alshon Jeffrey was asked if his intention is to stay with the Eagles long term. Quote, "I'm just focusing on this season. Whatever happens after the season, we'll handle it." Let's see here. Okay, the Eagles also signed guard Chance Warmack. Again, they're shoring up this offensive line. This offensive line should be pretty good, pretty solid next year. With Lane Johnson hopefully in the fold for the full 16. Jason Peters still playing pretty well. Steven Wisniewski in there. Chance Warmack is in the mix now. Kelsey, I don't know. So, about his status. Now, cornerback Nolan Carroll signed with the Dallas Cowboys, while defensive tackle Benny Logan would later go to the Kansas City Chiefs on a one-year deal. So a couple of those guys. Again, Nolan Carroll going to the Dallas Cowboys. That should be interesting. Next year, with new receivers in here, Carroll be in there covering Torrey Smith or Alshon Jeffrey. Should be interesting to see in those matchups. Carroll, I don't, that doesn't bother me a whole lot. Carroll, The Eagles, I think they can do better than Carroll. Leotis McKelvin, of course, was let go earlier in the off-season. So they got to do better. That's the bottom line. They were and continue to be the weak spot of this defense, the cornerback position. Now, the Eagles, they do have a couple other holes now, as also Connor Barwin was released. And again, we all kind of saw this coming. And as a matter of fact, Connor kind of released a statement last week. Very classy guy. Again, it was one of those things. He didn't fit the scheme here, and it kind of showed last year. He didn't have the same presence and effect that he had in previous years with the different 3-4 Billy Davis scheme. Running a new system here, and he's turning 30. And ultimately, it was just kind of inevitable that the Eagles were going to either trade him or release him. So you know what? Before we go any further, pay a little tribute. And he was a guy that I met personally a couple years ago when I did my summer internship with 93.3 MMR in Philadelphia. And Connor Barwin, actually, he stopped in twice during that summer period where, I got to meet him and I got to take a picture with him, and I have it. It was, for a stretch of time, it was, Facebook profile picture, and so he was a great guy. He is a great guy, and he's still, he's we bid a fond farewell to him. Let's see where this. Yeah, here was his statement on Twitter, Connor Barwin, last week. Thank you, Philadelphia, from the bottom of my heart for welcoming me and being the amazing city you are. Laura and I want to thank Jeffrey Lurie, the entire Eagles organization, and all the fans for their support. It has been an honor and a privilege to play for this historic franchise. The Make the World Better Foundation will continue its work to revitalize parks in the city. Our current projects at Smith Playground and Waterloo Playground are moving forward and very exciting. I hope to see many of you at our current concert this year. I have learned from and cherish every experience I have had in the great city of Philadelphia and every snap I played as an Eagle. From the Luries to my coaches, teammates, Make the World Better partners, and fellow SEPTA riders, thank you. Go Philly, go Eagles. Hope to see you in the playoffs. So how about that with Connor Barwin? Round of applause worthy. An outpouring of support for Barwin came out on social media from his fans and teammates. Malcolm Jenkins tweeted, I couldn't ask for a better teammate. Connor Barwin has been a leader, not only for our team, but, for the city, and, with this Make the World Better Foundation that he's been with. Fletcher Cox couldn't ask for a better teammate and leader. Merrill Reese. The toughest part of this business is to see great people move on. I felt that way about D'Amico Ryans. Now it's the same with Connor Barwin. What do you think? Pretty good Merrill Reese impersonation. I wonder if that's really even him. Is he actually on Twitter? Does he know how to use Twitter? I don't know. Ike Reese, first class. Connor Barwin will always be an Eagle. Good luck, bro. Howie Roseman. Okay, here we go. Here's what Howie Roseman had to say on the.
They're sexy, right?
Connor Barwin is a tremendous teammate, player, and an even better person. He represented the Philadelphia Eagles with class, integrity for the past 4 seasons, and we appreciate his efforts both on and off the field. It's rare to come across a player who invests so much of himself in the locker room as a leader on the field and with his relentless work ethic. His work in the community will have a lasting impact on our city that we can all be very proud of. Obviously, this was a difficult decision for us, but we wish him and his family all the best. On behalf of all of us, we just wanted to say thank you, and we all hope that our paths cross again in the future. Howie Roseman, thank you, Connor. So again,
I like vanilla and chocolate.
It was kind of just save cap space, $7.75 million. But again, Connor, class guy, will be missed. But sometimes it's a business, and it was kind of a move that we all saw coming. So, kind of the timeline of events here, that move was made. Again, they lost Benny Logan on defense now. So, one half of with Barwin out, who was an end, and Benny Logan tackle, half of the starting defensive line will be new next year, as both starting cornerbacks will be as well. So, it leaves him with Fletcher Cox. There's Bo Allen in the mix. And, which direction did they go? Now, we also talked about the signing and ultimately change at backup quarterback position. The signing of Nick, how's everybody doing, Foles, if you will.
How's everyone doing?
Yeah.
Let's make some noise, come on!
Look, some people are like, why do they have to bring Nick Foles back? Right? I mean, you can look at it however you want to. Chase Daniel wanted his release after this was done, and I was saying it last week. If you can get Chase Daniel out of here on that contract, please do. And that's ultimately what they did.
Get out! Get out!
First, they brought Nick Foles here. 2-year, $11 million deal. We'll make, all right, $5.5 million. And then, so, it's safe. Now, Chase Daniel, he wants to compete somewhere for a starting job, which I'd say good luck. Maybe you can do that at the Cleveland Browns. But that's, maybe if you want to start somewhere, that might be your only realistic option. All right? I mean, he was originally brought here to quote-unquote push Sam Bradford. And I guess because they wanted to throw a bone to Doug Peterson and bring in one of his guys. Well, whatever.
And I'm going to keep loving on him. And
I didn't really understand it to bring him here. But that's what they did. And they paid him way more than he did, $8 million or whatever. Really not necessary. Now, what we can hope is that Chase Daniel goes somewhere else. Somebody picks up his contract. Now, here's the deal. Daniel asked the Eagles to release him. He was done. This $3 million, 3-year, $21 million deal was set to cost $8 million against the cap. If Daniel signs somewhere else, then that doesn't really hurt the Eagles as much. As a matter of fact, it looks like he'll still be able to make more than $5 million. And this is per Tim McManus. Releasing Daniel carries a $7 million dead money hit, though offset language in the contract provides a degree of relief when the player signs with the new team. Under the restructure, the Eagles will get a bigger break than originally designed. apparently they've restructured the contract of Zach Ertz, turning in a $3+ million portion of his base salary for this year into a guaranteed roster bonus, opening up more than $2.5 million in cap space. The boosted offsets will help the Eagles, as Daniel will still go down as a hefty investment. So if he signs elsewhere, then it won't hurt the Eagles as much. And I think that's, with Nick Foles in here, making less than Daniel will make, that's fine. And first of all, Carson Wentz is the franchise quarterback here. No, make no bones about it. Nobody's competing with him, okay? Chase Daniel wasn't going to compete with him, and Nick Foles will not compete with him. Again, forget the 27-2, ancient history. We all know that. What has he done since then in this league? That's nothing. It was a mirage. But if you have to use your backup quarterback, if, God forbid or whatever, Wentz goes down and has to miss time, I like Nick Foles better than Chase Daniel. Chase Daniel with very limited NFL experience, really, at all. Playing experience. And knock on wood, Wentz only missed 6 snaps or whatever it was last year. They only needed Chase Daniel for 6 snaps. So therefore, Wentz stays healthy, then you don't really have to worry about the backup quarterback. But I feel Foles is a better insurance policy at a cheaper price than what Daniel was here last year. So, again, Foles a little more experience, and I'm fine with it. And I'm guessing Foles is happy to be back in Philadelphia, albeit in a backup quarterback role.
Let's make some noise, come on!
But again, let's make it clear. There's no comparison, no competing with Carson Wentz here. All right? There's no quarterback competition. We'll all get that straight. And on top of that, let's take a break here on this edition of the Tyler Werner Show, this mid-March edition that's kind of in the midst of wintry weather and cold temperatures as we move towards spring. We'll be back on the Tyler Werner Show after this.
What is it about good sex that makes me have to crap? Guess it's all that pumping. Pump and dump.
Pump and dump. Never stop the pumping. Always keep her satisfied. Pump and dump.
You really jarred something loose, Tiger.
I'll have some skirt steak, some brisket, little piece of that New York steak, a couple of them steak fingers, and a burger.
You've known for a long time that you were going to have to get real about fat or stay real fat. It didn't get that way by accident or by some outsider's doing.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too. Is there any chicken fried steak left?
Your weight just keeps creeping up or maybe even shooting sky high.
3 slices of pecan pie and 2 cups of coffee.
You have a decision to make. You know it, and so do I.
Yes, all right.
You need prescription diet pills or other diet aids to lose weight.
we're back on the Tyler Werner Show on this rather wintry week we have here with the cold and the snow. And we may even have a little more on the horizon this weekend. I guess it remains to be seen. But anyhow, we're moving through the month of March here, about halfway through the month. Of course, free agency opened up last week, eventful free agency. And at the top of the list, it was the addition of Alshon Jeffrey, and said earlier we'd play some audio actually of the press conference, his introductory press conference, answering some questions. So here's Alshon Jeffrey. This was late last week, not too long after getting signed here to the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm glad to be a part of such a great organization, the culture. So I can't wait to get started. Can't wait to get started. I'm excited. I think it's a perfect fit for me. The right situation for me and my family.
Carson Wentz has the ability to play with a young, rising quarterback that had a lot to do with it.
I had a lot to do with it. Like I said, sky's the limit for him. Like I told him, I texted him, me and him text back and forth. I told him that he got my job is to help him win the MVP. Which I truly believe. He's the sky's the limit for him. He's a great quarterback.
A one-year deal, why was that the best option for you?
I just think it's like I said, my job is just go out, just focus, just play football, and I just think that was the best opportunity for me.
Were the Eagles on your radar, or did they kind of swoop in late?
You never know with free agency, things can happen. You never know who's interested in you, who's going to give you a call, who's going to reach out to you. So when they reached out to my agent, I was interested.
Did Chicago make any push late to try to retain you?
Like I said, it's a lot of things a lot of deals that, in fact, that plays into. I just thought that this was the best situation for me and my family.
Is it difficult to leave Chicago based on drafted you? 4 years there?
I had a great 5 years there. It was great, but that's life. Like it's a stepping stone. You got to just move on.
When you came to the league, you had the benefit of having Brandon Marshall on the opposite side. Now you're coming into a situation with younger receivers. Do you want to kind of take that as an opportunity to pass the mantle on to them the way Marshall helped you?
Most definitely. I think with young guys, they always need some help with someone helping them along the way, because everyone needs someone to help them. Like, you just don't come in already just like you need a little help. Someone got to help you out here and there. So a little guidance here and there. Those guys already got a talent.
When we look at you and Jordan Matthews and Torrey Smith, here, obviously 3 different skill sets of wide receiver. How do you expect that to work out? What's your vision of wide receiver?
I just expect all of us to just come in and just work hard and just put in the time. Whatever happens, happens. As long as we win and making plays, that's all that matters to me.
What have you always used as the strengths of your game?
I would say just going up, leaping up with a defender.
Can you tell us about the specifics of that texting back and forth with Carson, how that worked when you told him you thought he could be MVP?
He said I don't really care about MVP. I want to win championships. I was like, that's right. That's the right mindset, the right attitude.
What does that say about him?
It means a lot for a young player to say that. Like I said, the sky's the limit for him.
In that Week 2 game last year against the Eagles, did you watch him at all? And is he someone you paid attention to after that?
Yeah, I watched him at the same time. I was playing for the Bears. I was hoping we win, but as things, I think in that last drive, like he was really getting things going. Like, yeah, wow, this kid gonna be special. He was really getting going.
What exactly happened with suspension, and what have you done to kind of rectify it so that doesn't happen again?
I just think it's just focusing on like what I put in my body, just being more careful. Like I said, I'm past that. I'm just trying to get. I'm gonna have the right team in place. Like everyone around me, like we all on the same page for this team standpoint. Whatever happens, like I'm pretty sure that's never gonna happen again.
You're gonna have the opportunity to be reunited with Mike Rowe. How much did that have an influence on your decision?
I really didn't think too much about that. I knew him from Chicago. I really didn't think too much about that bearing on my decision, but at the same time, I'm really excited because, I mean, Coach Grove's a great guy.
You said earlier today that once you see the passion of the city's fan base, that you'll want to come back. What do you know about Philly and its fans?
As diehard fans, I think we played here like 3 years ago. They really, when I played for the Bears, they really gave it to us. Like, they really gave us hell. But like I said, diehard fans, they passionate about this city. The city needs a championship, wants a championship. That's a must.
Your 2013 and 14 as Pro Bowl seasons, what was clicking for you those years?
It's a lot of factors. I mean, just making a lot of plays, I would say. Just each guy being accountable, putting in time in, just working.
In 2015, you dealt with a various set of injuries. What were some of the problems there, and what did you do to get, I think, from my understanding, the best health of your career heading into 2016?
Just staying on top of the maintenance work, just doing all the little stuff, whatever it takes, extra work, just so I won't pull nothing or nothing won't happen.
Did you change anything in terms of your diet, in terms of exercise, or work in the gym?
Just a little tweaks here and there, just going to see people, stuff that I can work on with my body.
Do you view this one-year deal as a chance to prove yourself and then get a bigger long-term contract after the year's over?
I really don't think about that. I'm just focusing on just playing football. Whatever happens after the season happens. Right now, I'm just one day at a time.
Did you discuss like a long-term deal with the Eagles? I mean, is that something that you kind of wanted going into this, or were you going to wait a year and then talk long-term?
As I said earlier, like going into the situation, I just looked at it, whatever was the best possible situation for me and my family. So I thought just maybe 1 year was the best possible position for me.
This city has badly wanted a wide receiver. What kind of expectations do you have for this season?
I mean, it's a lot of expectation. Like I said, I'm just coming and just put the work in. That's all I can do. Let the expectation, everything take care of itself.
You've had success in the red zone. What are some of the routes that you've had success running in there?
It's only it's only a few routes you can run, fade or slant. So.
What have been the ones that...
Just throw it up.
What's the secret to making a contested catch? You're really good at that.
I just think it's just something that's come natural. I mean, I don't know if it's a secret or not, just something I just think come natural.
In this locker room, what do you know?
Nelson, Torrey Smith, Fletcher. I'm pretty sure I know some few more people. I just can't think right now.
Nelson talk about 17.
Nah, Nelson had 17. I'm gonna leave that. I think I would have in Chicago. I'm gonna leave that in Chicago.
So it's the 1 year.
All right, so there we have it. Pretty short and sweet answers there out of Alshon Jeffrey. I guess it's all fine and dandy. Yeah, of course. I guess he just, as he said there in the press conference, I guess he can leave. Says he'll leave 17 in Chicago, and Nelson Aguilar can have number 17, I guess, and perhaps not drop the number. But there you have it. Alshon Jeffrey introductory press conference. Again, already had some little bit of exchange with Carson, and again, pretty short and sweet answers out of Alshon, but I think he's got the right mindset. That him, and he kind of said how Carson Wentz wanted to be with a future MVP quarterback or whatever, and Carson kind of responded like it. And I don't care about all that. I want to win a championship. And so, right idea. Of course, Alshon being the choice of wide receiver, at least number one here, instead of Brandon Cooks, who, sure enough, was traded to the New England Patriots. And now people are it's kind of being coined, congratulations, Super Bowl 52 champions, the New England Patriots. They have just reached an agreement with the Lombardi Trophy for 1 year. So, it's certainly Brandon Cooks now. Tom Brady's going to be throwing to Brandon Cooks. They got Brandon Cooks in that mix up in New England. That's it's quite a mix there for Tom Brady.
To me, those balls are perfect.
And Bill Belichick.
No days off.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe now the Patriots, they go with, maybe now they're going for the undefeated season again, the perfect season in the modern era. I don't know. I mean, they won 14. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated, but they won 14 games last year, won the Super Bowl, and what are they going to do this year? You know, with Brandon Cooks in the mix. Who in the AFC is going to knock off the Patriots this coming season? Is there anybody you can think of right now that has a chance? Or that you can make a realistic case is going to, you know, it's hard to say. It really is. So that was, as far as wide receiving transactions goes, that was a major one. And again, Brandon Marshall to the Giants. Eli Manning now has Odell Beckham Jr. and Brandon Marshall to throw to. And Terrell Pryor has signed with the Washington Redskins. So Deshaun Jackson out to the Buccaneers. Pierre Garçon out from the Redskins. Now Terrell Pryor's brought in. And Kirk Cousins was actually, you know, on the trade rumor, but he hasn't gone anywhere. And then it seemed like he wanted to go somewhere else after being rumored to be a possible trade from the Reds, but that didn't. So I don't know. But looks like Terrell Pryor is going to the Redskins. So a lot going on in the NFC East in free agency, and certainly with the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's good to be talking football again, because right now there wouldn't really be much else to talk about other than, of course, the college basketball tournament, the NCAA coming underway. Everyone's getting their brackets all set up and ready to go, and probably get busted after the first round, like everyone seems to every year. Flyers 6 points out of a playoff spot, barring they maybe get a win tonight. But otherwise, things looking bleak for them, and looking like they might want to consider somewhat of a rebuild, and maybe, dare I say, trading some of their quote-unquote star players, if they're really star players at this point. And meanwhile, the Sixers, just kind of finishing up the season again, with Dario Saric basically being the guy kind of running things out there without Joel Embiid and without Ben Simmons. So that's pretty much that. I mean, the Phillies in Grapefruit League action. So we'll talk. We got to continue to be in the midst here of football talk. The Eagles, the off-season, free agency, the draft, which is going to be big. We'll have to get more into it next week, as far as in the future weeks, as far as the draft is concerned, and what the Eagles may want to do. Until then, thanks for tuning into this edition of the Tyler Werner Show. And we'll got more to talk about, I'm sure, next week, as always. So until then, everybody have a great week. Stay warm here in the Delaware Valley. Hopefully, shoveling your way out if you haven't already. And we'll talk to you next time on the Tyler Werner Show.